All right, let's talk about business statistics. I know. The word statistics can sound a little dry, but trust me, in today's world, it's not just about numbers, it's a superpower. We're drowning in data, right? But just having it doesn't mean anything. The real trick, the secret weapon, is knowing what to do with it, and that's what we're going to unpack today.
And this quote, it just nails it. It's all about making smart calls based on facts, not just gut feelings. Look, we all have those hunches, right? Those instincts. But how many times are you really sure? This is where stats comes in. It gives you a way to actually test those hunches, to back them up with real evidence, and to walk into a meeting with confidence. It's basically the language of what's actually working.
But, okay, how do you actually do that? How do you get from a massive spreadsheet that makes your eyes glaze over to a smart, confident decision? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's not magic, it's a process, a journey, really, and we're about to take the first step.
First things first. Before we can look into a crystal ball and predict the future, we have to understand the present. You've got to know where you are before you can figure out where you're going. This first part is all about looking at the data you've got right in front of you and just listening to the story it's trying to tell.
So the whole world of stats kind of breaks down into two main flavors. First, there's descriptive statistics. The name says it all, right? It just describes what happened with the data you have. Then there's the really cool one, inferential statistics. This is where you take a small, tiny piece of data and use it to make a pretty solid guess about the whole shebang. It feels a bit like a magic trick, but it's pure logic. We're going to cover both.
Yeah, this photo analogy is perfect. Think of descriptive stats as taking a picture. It captures that one moment, that one group of people perfectly. Every detail is there. But, and this is the key, it only tells you about what's in that photo. It's a snapshot in time, a perfect record of what happened then.
So let's say you run a coffee shop. You're not guessing here. You're looking at facts. You can pull up the numbers and say, okay, last month, our average daily sales were exactly this much. You know which day was the busiest. You know which drink sold the most. You're just describing the reality of what already happened. Simple as that.
But here's the thing. An average can be tricky. It doesn't tell the whole story. You also need to know how consistent things are. And for that, we have this thing called standard deviation. All you really need to know is this. A low number is good. It means things are stable, predictable. A high number? That means you're on a roller coaster, and things are all over the place.
Let's look at a real-world example. The cricketer Virat Kohli. His average is a massive 442 runs. Amazing, right? But is he a sure thing every time he's at bat? Well, the standard deviation tells us his scores can swing wildly, anywhere from around 250 to over 600. So yeah, he's a high average player, but he's also a high variability player. See the difference? The average tells you what, but the standard deviation tells you how often.
All right. So, describing what's already happened? Check. We've got that down. But what about all the data you don't have? The data you can't possibly get? This is where things get really interesting. It's about using a small peek to understand the big picture.
And this, right here, is the core problem. If you make washing machines, you need to be able to tell your customers how long they'll last. But you can't test every single machine until it breaks, right? You'd have nothing left to sell. It's just not possible to test everything.
So what do? How can you possibly estimate the average lifespan for all the machines you'll ever make? Well, you take a sample. You grab a small, manageable group, test them until they break, and then you use those results to make a really smart, educated guess about the entire population.
And there's some specific lingo for this. The number you get from your little test group, say the average lifespan of those 50 machines, that's called a sample statistic. The big, true number you're trying to figure out, the actual average for all machines, that's the population parameter. It's really simple. You use what you know to estimate what you don't.
Okay, this is the good part. This is where the rubber meets the road. We know how to describe our data. We know how to make educated guesses. Now we're going to put it all together to make confident, data-backed, yes or no decisions.
Now, the term hypothesis testing sounds super academic and scary, but it's not. It's just a 4-step recipe for making a decision. Step 1, you state the way things are right now, the status quo. Step 2, you go out and collect some evidence, your sample. Step 3, you ask, how weird is this evidence? How likely is it that I'd see this if the status quo was actually true? And if the answer is really, really unlikely, then step 4, you make the call. You reject the old idea.
Let's go back to our coffee shop.
You sent out a new marketing flyer. Your gut says it worked. Sales seem up. But do you know? Well, with hypothesis testing, you can. The status quo is that the flyer did nothing. Then you gather your evidence, the sales data from after the flyer went out. If those sales are so much higher that it's nearly impossible it happened by pure luck, then you can confidently say, nope, the status quo's wrong, the flyer worked.
So, we can look at the past, and we can test ideas in the present. But the holy grail, right? That's predicting the future. This last piece of the puzzle is all about finding those hidden connections in your data that lets you see what's coming around the corner.
And there are two key tools for this: correlation and regression. They sound similar, but they're different. Correlation just says, hey, these two things seem to move together. Like when it gets hotter, ice cream sales go up. Simple. But regression is next level. It builds a model, a formula that says, okay, if the temperature is exactly 85 degrees, I predict we will sell exactly this many ice creams. See? It's a prediction machine.
But if you build one of these prediction machines, how do you know if it's any good? That's where R² comes in. The easiest way to think about it is like a grade for your model, from 0 to 100%. If your R² is 75%, that's like getting a B. It means your model can explain about 75% of what's going on. It's a pretty good predictor.
Let's take this chart. Say we built a model to predict hot chocolate sales based on rainy weather, and we get an R² of 75%. That means we can say that rainy weather is responsible for about 3/4 of our sales bumps. The other 25%? Who knows? Maybe it's a local event. Maybe someone's just having a bad day. It's just other random stuff. But explaining 75%? That's a really useful model to have.
And that's basically the whole journey. We went from simply describing what we see, to making educated guesses about what we don't see, to testing our ideas with confidence, and finally, to predicting what's going to happen next, from photo to crystal ball. So, I want to leave you with a challenge. Think about your own job right now. What's one gut feeling you have? One thing you're pretty sure is true, but you can't really prove it. Because now you have the tools. You have the roadmap to take that hunch and turn it into a cold, hard, data-driven fact.